What's up everyone, Alex here with the Whiskey Shelf, and for this video I want to introduce something new to the channel called Japanese for Whiskey People, part 1 of however many I feel like doing. Now, what I mean by Japanese for Whiskey People is that while I'm in Japan for the time being, I'm going out looking for whiskey, buying whiskey, going to stores, but the thing I've realized, and I guess this really shouldn't be much of a surprise, is that a lot of the people, almost all the people who work at liquor stores in Tokyo even, really don't speak much English. So really to have a better experience, better communicate, you need to speak Japanese. And of course, this is Japan. Of course they speak Japanese. They don't have to speak English. This isn't America. So it really might benefit you to learn a little bit of Japanese so that you can be better at buying whiskey, talking to the people, or at least communicating a little bit more than just yeah, yeah. Better than that. Learn a couple words. I think will definitely help you kind of get where you want to go. So, in Japanese for Whiskey People Part 1, I want to teach you 5 words to really get you on your way to learning Japanese, or Japanese that will help you find whiskey. So let's get started. Now the first word I think shouldn't be surprised is whiskey, which in Japanese you say wisugi. Now I don't necessarily want to get into all the details of pronunciation, but for those who potentially are native Japanese speakers, I'm not necessarily writing this out in the appropriate Japanese phonetics. I'm doing this more as a way for English speakers to better visualize and then verbalize how the word might sound best, using English phonetics. So whiskey is wisugi. So kind of instead of the K, the key, they should turn that into a key. Wisugi. So that's word 1. Now word 2, I'm going to flip the page. Probably one you probably really want to know. Bourbon. And in Japanese, bourbon is Bourbon. And so the big thing to remember here is it's Bourbon. So there's no R in the word. So it goes ba instead of bur, and then bun, and then bun. It's very similar. So Bourbon. So there's like a slightly different take. And I think this will help you go a long way just to communicate. Bourbon, like help me say, do you have bourbon? That's too complicated for now, but again, another really good word to know, because there are times like you can say bourbon and there's a chance they will understand because it sounds like bourbon, but if you can say bourbon instead, that would definitely be more clear with what you're looking for. All right, let's go to the third word. And the third word is rye. Now in Japanese you say dai. So it sounds a lot like rye. The main nuance here is that R sound is not a R, it's like a D. So instead of saying rye, you can say dai. It does sound very similar. It's definitely one of those harder phonetic words even I still struggle with while I'm learning Japanese. But think of this as like a RL, not a roll like in Spanish, but like a dai. Now, the thing kind of on a tangent here, one thing I've noticed, there is some rye, but it really skews, in terms of American whiskey, really heavily bourbon. And then outside of that, tons and tons and tons of scotch. I mean, most stores I've seen or I've been to probably have 3 to 4 times the scotch selection compared to the American whiskey selection. So there is some rye. You probably won't be using this word a whole lot unless you happen to find, a Michter's 10-year rye, which is it's possible because I found one in Japan. So that's word 4. Now, actually, sorry, that's word 3. So word 4 is another one that you're really going to want to know, is Blantons. So instead of going to the store and saying, do you have any Blantons? You can start with Buranton. The main difference here, instead of bula, it's buru. So instead of Blantons, it's Buranton. And there's also no S at the end. So it's not Burantons, it's Buranton. Instead of Blantons, so Buranton. Cut off the S and it's like a bud instead of Blanton, instead of a blah. So instead of going to the store and saying, Do you have any Blantons? Eventually you can learn to say Blanton ga arimasu ka? And fun fact, I'm pretty sure there's like a 50 to 60% chance, at least as I'm experiencing right now, that you will find Blantons. I would say, most stores have Blantons Black. They actually have like a direct import of the US one, and Blanton's Takada Red. Every now and then they'll have gold, Takada gold, and straight from the barrel, but definitely red and black, and the one that's kind of like the American one. All right, now the last word. Now this is actually word 5. Another really good one to know is just liquor store, and in Japanese you say sakaya. It sounds nothing like English, and probably you've never heard this word before, but sakaya, the ya especially, just means the kind of. It usually indicates like a type of store, and then saka sounds a lot like sake, so kind of think of it like sakaya. Oh, maybe not exactly, but think of it like a sake. So sake, the Japanese, one of the Japanese rice wine, and ya, and you have liquor store. So those are the first 5 words that I wanted to share with you. There's a lot more to learn, even to learn in terms of learning brands, other types of whiskey, and even just like actually being able to communicate in sentences outside of pointing and going oh, I don't know. So there's so much more to learn, but I just wanted to start off with those 5 basic words. And then before I forget, if you like what you've seen, don't forget to subscribe below and click the bell. There's also a link to my blog, also www.thewhiskeyshelf.com, as well as a link to my Instagram page. And then last but not least, if you are so inclined to support me on Patreon, there's a link below, and I definitely appreciate it if you do. But if you don't, that's cool too. I think the most important thing is, I hope that I'm doing these and it's worthwhile for you to watch. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that you learn something that may be useful for you someday in the future. There was a point I didn't think I'd ever need Japanese, and then guess what? Joke's on me. So, it is what it is. But with that said, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I hope to see you again in another video with The Whiskey Shelf. Thank you. See ya.